All right, folks. I just had to hear that groove. That was a new groove that I wanted to try out, and I really kind of like it. So, welcome. My name is Gene, folks, and you are with that brother of light. So today, I hope to drop a little wisdom in your left ear and knowledge in your right. Welcome to the folks unfettered. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about tech's effects on our mental health. And we're going to get right into it right after this. Let's go. All right. All right. So here we go, folks. So, I wanted to discuss this topic, and because I believe that from my own research and doing my own homework, and even using technology in my daily life, I began to wonder how our mental health is being affected by our dependency and our usage of technology. And so I wanted to just address that here for a little bit and have a discussion about that. This month we're going to be talking about mental health. I have an exciting episode coming up on July 4th with Dr. Pat Malone. She is a high performance mental health expert. We're going to be having a conversation with her, and we're going to be talking about her practice. And we're also going to be talking about mental health in general and how it affects us on, um, not on, but in our professional and personal lives, and how the internal and external variables, actually, how the external variables are affecting our internal person. And the reason why I believe that this topic is of such importance, as do other researchers, is that, technology has become an integral part of our lives. We use it for everything from staying connected with friends and family to getting work done. And so the question becomes, what are the effects of all this technology doing to our mental health? And, there's some evidence that technology can have negative effects on our mental health. For example, studies have shown that excessive social media use can lead to increased anxiety and depression. And I want to stop here for a minute and talk about this idea of how social media can increase anxiety and depression. Have you ever gone onto a social media post? And I try not to go on as much as possible because, you do come away feeling a certain way. I don't know about you, but my anxiety increases sometimes because a couple things happen. First, I feel like I'm missing something. Like, oh my God, if I'm not online, then, what am I missing? What did this person say, or what happened, or how am I going to know what's going on with my friends here and abroad or in other places? I'm starting to feel sort of, left out. And then when I do hop on social media and look at those posts, and you see your friends going away to these luxurious vacations, or this person got married, or you see a father on there with his children, and they tell these, compelling stories about how their relationships have gotten stronger and tighter, and they've grown as individuals. Or you see, your girlfriends may have had a grandchild, or a family member have a grandchild, or one of your friends got a large promotion, or, even in the professional setting, that when you've engaged people professionally and they tend to not use your skills and services, but yet they'll try to take your ideas and run with it themselves. That can lead to a sense of anxiousness. You can become very anxious about your place in the world, because of the lens of which you're looking through, which happens to be a very myopic lens presented by social media. And then if you don't have a healthy grasp on that concept, that can lead to depression, which we know that depression can lead to more serious complications, not to lead to self harm or a despondency or a sense to feel somewhat, disconnected. And the reason for this is because social media can make us compare ourselves to others and feel like we're not good enough, right? So if you're in a particular field, let's say you're an actor or a model, or you're not, or you are a business owner, or you're making donuts, or you're a floor sweeper, and you go on there and you say, this person that I know, they are having success in here, or my friends went to Aruba, or my friends went to Bora Bora, or my friends went to Puerto Rico, and yet if you know them intimately, and you know that they were just complaining to you about XYZ, or they were just telling you about how their relationship is not going as well as they had hoped it would, or that they're facing some other challenge, and yet they'll post something quite the opposite on social media that actually will make you feel some kind of way, right? And it's not that you have a hater mentality. It's just that you have to be able to discern between what is real from what is artificial. And I'll dive on here for a second. I also believe that artificial intelligence is going to make this more complicated. I was looking at a couple of photos on a social media site, and I can't remember which one it was. And I had to stop for a second because they had posted this picture of this attractive woman on there. And I had to stop and look because of all of the advances that we're making in technology. Was I looking at a real person, or was I looking at a computer generated individual? And, that is something that most of us have not had to think about before. That is this what they call a deep fake? Or is this something that is real? And that is one of the challenges with social media, right? That is one of the challenges that technology is going to present us with. Can we actually believe what we see with our eyes? Like we really are we really starting to question the fabric of what reality really is? And that's a very dangerous question, but it's also one that we're asking, especially when you have the rapid integration of artificial intelligence that is really going to start affecting every area of our lives. How are we going to address those issues? How do we keep our minds right when it comes to dealing with what's real from what is artificial? And I'm making that distinction intentionally, from what's real from what is artificial. Artificial sugar is not real sugar, right? Grown out of the ground, and something you get off a stalk, and you kind of shave it down that way. But I think that the lines of reality and virtual reality are becoming more and more blurred, and I'm not sure we as humanity, if we're quite ready for that. And so, to that point, the easy access of social media that gives us this sense that we have access to people that we normally wouldn't have access, and somehow every voice matters, which it should. But we're gonna have an opinion on all these different topics. That can lead to cyberbullying, which can have a devastating impact on mental health. And I want to stop here for a minute and talk about the cyberbullying piece. And I'm going to bring up a couple of things that I would like to address. The one is that when a couple of cases in how cyberbullying and bullying can affect us. Whenever I think of cyberbullying, you start thinking about the youth, start thinking about the younger generation and below. But really, cyberbullying has actually been distributed across age groups and has really been used in the professional sector more than anything, regardless of what the agenda is that people are being bullied. I'll give you an example. If you remember the case between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, everybody had something to say about it. It didn't matter what the truth was. The issue was that the court of public opinion, that everybody jumped on and made a comment and a statement, and they had a perspective about an intimate relationship they had nothing, that they didn't have any firsthand knowledge about. That because of the legal case, that they were presented with a snippet of what they believe to be an entire relationship. And I said this years ago. I said that, Google doesn't give you the whole story. It may give you a snapshot, and you may take that snapshot and think you know exactly what happened, but that's not what happens, right? And so with these effects of cyberbullying, what can happen is it can affect your career. It will affect your reputation. Um, it will affect your if you work for someone else, it would affect your employment. It will affect you socially, because if someone levies an accusation against you, then that exposes you to other people who may have more nefarious intentions to lodge those allegations against you. I'll give you a second case, and that is the one that's currently happening, which is Jonathan Majors. And Jonathan Majors was accused of domestic violence, and subsequently he was arrested, and he was obviously released on bail. And he lost his manager, I believe, and he lost his representation. And there were two organizations that stood by him. One was Disney, one Marvel. And his attorneys kept saying, he was fortunate enough to have the financial resources to afford a really good attorney, kept saying that you guys don't know the whole story. And that's fine. Now, there's new evidence that came out that his legal team had presented that said that the quote unquote alleged victim had actually been led by the police to make an accusation, which she did. And they presented evidence that ended up with his alleged accuser being arrested for abusing him. Now, prior to this information that's only released in the last 2 or 3 days, Mr. Majors had remained silent. But prior to that, because of the accusation, he lost representation. His marketing for several movies that he's been involved in has been limited, if done at all, while the legal case is going on. And because of the impact of the rapid rate at which information is now disseminated across the internet, that there's now an asterisk next to Mr. Majors' name. That there are those individuals that are also going to question whether or not Mr. Majors, in fact, had anything to really do with these accusations or not. And that's where I believe that technology and our access to technology can have a really negative effect on what we believe or perceive that we think can be made to be truthful. And these are just several high profile cases. Think about the cases where it's not high profile. Think about the cases where the person doesn't have the financial resources to defend themselves. Think about where someone is using your, let's say something gets out on you on the internet from years ago, and a person attaches themselves to you, and on the surface they seem to pass muster, and yet they know that they have, a sort of a silver bullet if you quote unquote get out of line, right? You can use technology and information that is put on some of these platforms to really bully a person into being taken advantage of, whether that's financially, whether that's taking somebody's property, whether that's hiding a crime, whether it's a business crime or a personal crime, or you can exaggerate an accusation to the point to where you silence that person and then make yourself look like the victim. And I do believe that we live in a country that allows us to become more victims than anything. We have a really victim mentality in this country right now, and I have an issue with that. And a lot of that is led by this idea that we can comment and levy our opinion on other people because we have access to technology, and that is a form of cyberbullying. That is a form of really negatively affecting someone's mental health. because you may feel a certain way about them, or maybe they didn't speak to you that morning, and so you say, "Oh yeah, I remember when he came in the office and he having a conversation with me." And the person that is, if you can imagine that, you can't say that Mr. Majors is not having or being devastated from a mental health perspective because of these accusations lodged against him. Even um, Johnny Depp and Amanda Heard, some people were saying some things about her as well that could have effects on her or mental health, which it came out, to be during that case that she actually did have mental health issues, and so that came to be an issue. And it's interesting because even in Jonathan Majors' case, it came out to be that the woman that made these accusations against him was having a mental health crisis. The problem is that once technology had gotten a hold of the story, then it spread like wildfire. Instead of us holding back and saying, let's see if there's any legs to this, the legal system, law enforcement, we were quick to act, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we were quick to act and make an assertion that is going to have long-term effects on a person's career and their legacy. And, that really makes living in this world and how you interact with other people somewhat precarious. At least it can, right? Because there's no magic bullet or magic pill to know if someone's mentally healthy or not. I've seen, I'll give you an example. I was having lunch with a gentleman that was very professional. He was at the top of his field, and he was a little agitated that day. And I asked him say, just express yourself. And he was talking about how he was having some personal challenges with his life partner. And on the surface, I had said, you guys are my people. But when you really dug down to what he had posted on social media and what his significant other had posted on social media and how they present themselves to the external world internally, they were having some real challenges where similar accusations were made against this individual, and that's just. And I didn't say anything because I wasn't there. I didn't know what it was. I understand it, and I think that it's. Imagine if I could get online and say anything about anyone that I wanted to, without the threat of consequences. We should be afraid of what technology will allow us to do and be concerned about the effects that it will have on our mental health from a two-part process. One, the mental health of the person that's doing it, and the other, the mental health of the person that is receiving it. That there seems to be some challenges there that we believe that we need to address when it comes to that. And never before, it used to be, and I'm not that old. It used to be that people were more concerned about gossip, right? Because that's all this is. This is just really gossip. But the issue with this gossip, you'd have neighborhood gossip, and then if you got out of your neighborhood, then that stuff will go away unless you went back to the neighborhood. The problem is that this type of gossip affects it can affect your livelihood, it can affect your social standing, it can affect your ability to earn a living. You can get blackballed out of an industry. You can end up in handcuffs. You can have threats of criminal prosecution before you are even allowed to defend yourself. It doesn't sound like America to me. I don't care what the issue is. It doesn't really sound like America to me. And what we're finding is that in more and more of these cases, whether it's public or whether it's private or whether we say somebody embezzled money or whatever the issue is, and I know I want to hone on one particular issue that we're having, is that once you find out that it's not true, then we say, well, problem resolved. You are now an innocent person. Go about your way. And we don't really consider the lingering negative effects that it's going to have on that person's life. How is you going to say, well, be careful who you choose next time as a partner? How do you know when a person's going to flip out on you? You don't. How do you know what a person's true intentions are? Now, I'm not trying to scare people in saying this. I want to give you an extreme that happens in technology as it relates to cyberbullying almost every day. And it's across the board, men doing it to women and women doing it against the men. And it's equal in that sense. But it's not always disseminated equally. And so part of me is kind of glad that Jonathan Majors' accuser was arrested. I think there should be consequences when you levy these type of claims at people, not to scare someone for it, but to bring more balance to it. We needed to have more increased domestic violence protections, but it has been swayed one way because we only focus on the physical part. We don't focus on the mental and the emotional and the financial part of it, which both parties, if we want to talk about equality, both parties have the ability to be an abuser. And so, we have these conversations about, gender equality. Well, you know what? If this woman abused Jonathan Majors, she'd be treated just like Jonathan Majors was treated. That's just, isn't that fair? At least it should be. And, the issue is that if we go deeper with this idea of technology's negative effects on our mental health, think about trying to disseminate between, what they call a deep fake, what's real and not real. I was watching, and I'm switching the subject here because I'm done with that one topic. I was watching, had this video ad come up, and it had this attractive woman walking. And I had to stop and think. I looked at her for a second. I had to stop and think, and something in my brain registered, this is not a real person. Looked like a real person, act like a real person. And I had to stop and consider whether or not what I was looking at was a natural born human being, or was I looking at something that was artificially created? And I went down in the comments and looked at what looked to be real. And the comments were saying that this is an artificially created individual. And that is, boy, that evokes a whole different topic that we have yet to address. And I know I've talked about it here on the program some time ago, and I know that there are other more intelligent people that have really having this conversation about being concerned about how we integrate technology into our daily lives. And so one of the things that, whether it's, anxiety, depression, or cyberbullying, all these things, all these potential negative effects of technology is that it can disrupt our sleep. And sleep is one of the most restorative and important parts of being a human being. When it comes to our ability to refresh our bodies, refresh our minds, refresh our emotional states, we tend to need sleep to accomplish that. And I don't know about you, but boy, sometimes I'll get in bed late at night and I'll grab my laptop, or I'll grab my cell phone, and maybe I'll be playing a game, or maybe I'm trying to read a book. And, you have that blue light that emits from screens. It can interfere with the production of melatonin. Did you know that? And melatonin is a hormone that helps us sleep. So when you disrupt the production of melatonin, now all of a sudden you need sleep aids like Ambien or some other sleep aid to help you get to sleep at night, because you're just not sleeping. And if you lack sleep, if you don't get the proper amount of sleep, then that can lead to problems like insomnia and fatigue, which can contribute to mental health problems. And if you're tired, you become cranky, you become short, your attention span becomes more broken, more choppy. You're not able to retain information, and so there's a lot of other things that pose negative effects on our mental health. Now, technology can also have positive effects on our mental health. For example, there are online therapy can make it easier for people to assess mental health care. I'll share that with you that I had my mental health via video. I do talk to a uh, a veteran sponsored mental health professional because I've suffered from PTSD and anxiety. I've managed it pretty well. You wouldn't know it externally because I have um, mental and emotional safeguards in place to manage that, and that's becoming stronger every day. It can also make it easier for people in rural areas to have access to mental health professionals. I think there are several online therapy groups that are really marketing themselves so people can actually get the help that they need. There are a number of apps and games that can be used to help people manage stress, anxiety, and depression. I'm not a big gamer like PlayStation, Xbox, or any of that other stuff. I used to be, but I do have my little games. You see the person playing Candy Crush or chess or dominoes or spades or poker or something like that, just to give myself a mental break um, on that. And so that is one of the positive effects that technology can have on our mental health. The other thing too is, and I've had conversations with psychologists and authors of books, um, and one of the things that will help, I believe, based on my research, people to deal with the effects of technology on our mental health and the negative effects, particularly, is to remain emotionally agile. You don't want to remain stuck. You want to embrace change, and you want to be able to be mindful of how you use technology. Right? You don't want technology to rule your life. You don't want to start having your palms sweat because you're not near your cell phone. You should be able to put your cell phone down and really engage with the person sitting next to you, and that's one of the things that we want to address as well. You know, one of the things that I would also like to present to you is that overall the effects of technology on mental health are complex, and it depends on a number of factors, including the individual's age, personality, and how they use technology. The key takeaway here is that you want to be aware of the potential and negative effects of technology and to use it in moderation. If you're concerned about the impact of technology on your mental health, you need to talk to your doctor or a mental health professional, and you need to really address those issues. And while technology can have both a positive and negative effect on our mental health, one of the biggest problems of technology is that it can be addictive. Never really thought about that one, right? Technology can get very addictive. We get a dopamine hit every time we check our phone or social media. There's that sense of like anticipation, which can lead us to use these platforms more and more. There was a news special that talked about the creators of these platforms, and they said they don't use them. They don't allow their children to use them. In some cases, they don't even have their own accounts to use them. I've got some friends of mine that don't use them either, and so I will heed their warning, and I try to limit my use of them because there's the psychological piece of this and the scientific piece of this that that this can lead to problems like anxiety and depression, as well as problems with sleep, right? So excuse me. So this becomes one of the challenges that we want to consider how we want to do this. I'm gonna start wrapping this up, and I want to say this. Everything is about moderation. When you know that technology is rapidly taking over our lives in a way and being used in a way that most of us could have only imagined, then we want to be able to use technology in a mindful way. You want to be aware of how it's affecting you and take breaks when you need them. If you find that you're using technology in a way that's causing you problems, I would highly recommend you to talk to your doctor or a mental health professional. And in giving you that advice, I want to remind you that on July 4th, here on Folks Unfettered, we're going to be having a conversation with a with a high performance mental health expert, Dr. Pat Ballone, talking about mental health, how to integrate from a holistic standpoint what we eat, how we think, how we speak, and how we act to become high performers. And I'm gonna bring this topic of conversation up to her to get her expert opinion about tech's effects on our mental health. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of Folks Unfettered. I hope that you will do your homework and research and join us on the next episode of our program as that's coming up. And I know that today is Thursday. We usually give out our episode on a Wisdom Wednesday. I have been engaged in other products and in other projects and that have taken my time and attention away. And we are going to be on our regularly scheduled program. So this episode will come out, give you something to do over the weekend, which is to get a little wisdom in your left ear and grab a little wisdom in your right. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Folks Unfettered. And as always, I'm your host, Gene Folks. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.